20% of men are having sex with 80% of women. This is the first time gender studies professors are sounding right-wing. The simps, what they do is they'll DM a girl who's a 5 and treat her like a 10.
As you're approaching your fear, your deep-seated phobia of marriage.
As you victim blame from the Luddite pews.
I had to self-censor a really good joke just now. I'm so sad about it.
Man.
Kwaku is like, don't help me.
Guys,
help my generation, yeah?
Yes.
Once you can trust somebody and you can rely on them, only then should you get physical with them, and that level of physicality should only be proportional to how much you know you can rely on them.
But it's too much thinking because you're overwhelmed with how hot they are.
But when a 5 who works at Wendy's posts her selfie on Snapchat, she should not get 300 replies within 10 minutes.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Midnight Mormons. I am your host, Cardon Ellis, and today we're joining the studio with Kwaku L, Brad Witbeck, and our guest today, Jacob Hansen. And you know what? It's official, ladies and gentlemen, but polygamy is coming back. You heard it here first. Kwaku, tell us what's going on.
Oh, it's not coming back. It's already here.
All of your girlfriends?
Well, no,
half a Provo.
Hear me out. Hear me out. This is actually a really important topic that I don't think Latter-day Saints, ex-Latter-day Saints, nobody is ready to confront the uncomfortability of this.
And the uncomfortability?
Yes.
Okay.
It's just as uncomfortable as that word makes you feel.
Yes. Okay.
I'm supposed to say uncomfy. I'm uncomfy. No, I'm not going to say that. So,
was that one of your wives talking? I'm uncomfy.
How is Kwaku the polygamist? Is that started? My dad was a polygamist. So
there you go.
The point is, but this is very, very important information. Our friends in the normal mainstream Christian world are also going to be uncomfortable by this because it's going to affect everybody. So, I know you've seen the stats, Cardon, but I'm not sure if you guys know the stats. I just want to relay them to you right now, because let's just say I'm the only non-married one here, right?
Okay.
And Brad, you're only a couple years older than me, but you got married right before the dating market crashed and crashed horribly. Okay, you got married.
The flames.
Jacob, when 2010. 2010. Cardon, when did you get married?
2013.
2013. Okay, so yeah, you guys were before it got horrific. Okay, back when you were on the market, you didn't have to worry if a girl had an OnlyFans with 55,000 subscribers and that she was sending nudes to. You didn't have to worry about it. That wasn't a problem. Okay?
I just would have been 55,00001.
Okay, great.
Josh Cardon.
Oh my God. You gotta keep tabs on your girlfriend, you know.
Oh my word. That made it worse somehow. How did you manage to make that worse?
It's what we do. It's Midnight Mormons.
You sound like the guy from there are 6 witches in this church and I got there.
You better look in my eyeballs. We ain't afraid of you, you stinking witch.
Anyway, but Cardon, Tinder was around when you got married, but it was still new, right? It wasn't where it is now.
It was more of a joke. It was still something you joked about. Similar, actually, when Tinder came out, the joke of Tinder was really, everybody used it, but people didn't want to admit to it. In the same way, when MySpace had come out and people were meeting on MySpace, they didn't want to admit to it because it was still a little bit socially taboo.
People met on MySpace?
Oh, yeah. I was really an early adopter of a lot of this stuff because in Los Angeles, I worked as a balloon twister. I was 16 years old and I twisted balloon animals in restaurants for tips. You laugh, but I was making like $250 a night in cash as a 16-year-old in LA. Nice. It was pretty awesome. Paid my tithing. But anyway, the number one couples I would meet were couples that met at work. Number 2 couples were people that had met in college or were high school sweethearts. But a very close third, because oftentimes couples on dates get balloons while they're waiting for their food, I would make a lot of romantic, these cool little lovebird balloon thingies that you make. Right now, I'm going to have to show all of our audience these freaking balloon animals that I used to make. But I would make them for couples that had met on MySpace. MySpace was hooking people up in like 1996, 97, I guess this would have been. I just dated myself badly. Kwaku, bail me out.
You just can't wait for me to die, can you? There's so
Well, so basically, here, when leaders of the church, and I'm gonna include all the leaders of the church. I'm gonna include even apostles in this. Okay, there is something they're missing when they talk about the youth not getting married, and think you need. Brethren, take the sisters on a date. Take them on a date, brethren. What are you slacking for? Yeah, well, when there were 3 people in Burley, Idaho, when you met your wife in the 30s, it was way different than it is now.
And the girls had to date within the pool of their social circle, and the social circle was restricted to your school group or your church group. There wasn't the ability for the hottest chick in town to date a dude 7 years older than her that lives 20 miles that way that can afford the gas to drive. She never would have met him before, but now it's all changed.
And
everything
so you're
is
saying
way different. Yeah,
it's a little bit of like a decision paralysis sort of thing where you have so many
Oh
options.
no, I wish it was that, because that's what it was when you got married, Brad. That's how it was in
well,
2014.
let's get to the meat and potatoes.
I have
limited options.
Well, 2014, 2015. Okay, this is the timeline. Everybody had so many options. Everybody had so many options. You're a guy, you had all the girls, and it was fun, it was exciting, and that's Mutual and Bumble and Hinge. It is a disaster now. It is a disaster beyond repair, because 20% of men are having sex with 80% of women.
Whoa.
And in the United States,
repeat that stat.
In the United States dating world, under 35, 20% of men are sleeping with 80% of the women.
Well, there is polygamy right there.
That polygamy's back. It didn't go away.
Just secular
polygamy.
Yeah, a secularized version of it where, wow.
And here's why. Okay, here's why. And I promise I'm not an incel. Like, I promise I'm not one of these, like, men's rights, come on, how come men can, I'm not one of these guys. But facts are facts. We do need to talk about the reality that a lot of men are noticing, and now there are studies. This is the first time gender studies professors are sounding right-wing. This is the first time this has ever happened. So you're watching this, you're listening to these podcasts, you're reading these articles, and you're going, oh, boy. So what's happening is this, and this is my take on it. Simps have destroyed everything. So
wait, simps or feminists that created the problem?
Simps.
So you're victim blaming.
Can you hear me out, you simp? All right.
Okay. I'm a simp.
Okay.
You're a simp for feminists.
No. You're a simp for Brittany, Cardon.
Yeah.
Look at that.
You hear that, babe?
No. But here's what I mean. So it used to be. I'm gonna use a scale. Okay. Let's say who is a 10. Like, name an actress you think is a 10 out of 10.
Brittany Colley, my wife.
Okay, all right. Well,
yeah. Keeping it real, Cardon. Keeping the simping alive.
Most people would say Jennifer Aniston, right? Men of all ages are attracted to Jennifer Aniston, right?
Sure, for the sake of argument. Let's
how about this? Megan Fox in 2006 and Transformers.
Add 6 inches to Megan Fox, yes,
Okay.
but then you just have my wife, Brittany.
Who's a serpent swallows up the others?
Okay, fine. So let's say, because everyone remembers watching that scene in Transformers with like What I've Done's playing at Lincoln Park and they're leaning against the car and it was like, Megan Fox is so hot. Every guy has that memory. Okay.
So we're setting Megan Fox as a 10.
Okay. And let's say a 1 is, we don't even need to say it. The simps, what they do is they'll DM a girl who's a 5 and treat her like a 10. So when Megan Fox posts a selfie on Instagram and gets 3 million likes and 500,000 comments of, oh my gosh, you are so beautiful. You're, dream girl, dream crush. That makes sense. But when a 5 who works at Wendy's posts her selfie on Snapchat, she should not get 300 replies within 10 minutes saying, OMG, come over, you're so cute. Oh, you're so beautiful, you're so beautiful. But she is. And so now her ego is inflated and she thinks she's a 10 because of simps who are porn addicts who can't get a girl and are hoping to shoot for, maybe I can get one of these girls, And now 5s and 6s don't want to date guys who are 5s and 6s. And here's what they're doing. They're hooking up with guys who are 8s, 9s, and 10s. So this is in Provo. Girls who are 5s and 6s are sleeping with these BYU basketball and football players, and they're like, I slept with a insert name here. And that's not hard to do. We're talking about guys.
Well, it depends on the name. Give us a name.
I'm not going to out them like that.
Okay.
But these are guys who tackle people on the grass and have 2 brain cells left. We're not talking about, right? And they'll sleep with anyone. It's not that hard. So they're like, oh, I slept with this basketball player and this basketball player. Oh, and I slept with an NFL player and this person, this person. That means I should be dating and romantically involved with people who are 8s, 9s, and 10s. But that's not the case. Because if you're a guy in that 20%, if you're 8, 9, or 10, and you have all of these women that want you, you're not going to commit. You're going to play the field and have fun. And the guys who should commit to you are in your ballpark, but you don't want them because you now have an inflated dating market value. So you think you're this, but you're this. And the guys who are actually this will go, yeah, sure, boom, boom, boom. But they're only going to date girls and bring home girls who are this. So now all of these girls are single and they don't know what to do. And it's becoming a real problem because all these guys now are super single and they're like, that chick's totally in my league. She won't give me the time of day.
I don't even know. I don't know that you have guys even recognizing that problem with how addicted they are to video games and porn.
No, I promise they are. I am seeing podcasts about this pop up left and right. This is I'm telling you, during COVID, it was all figured out when there was nothing to do but be horny. All these boys figured out where they really stood on the scale, and it has become, oh, you are so lucky you were married, Brad. You are lucky you were married.
Hold on a second, though. I'll tell you right now. I slow your roll for a second, okay? You act like this is kind of new. I had to get out of Provo because I recognized it perpetuates Peter Pan syndrome. Okay, the 20-80 rule. What you're referencing is the 20-80 rule in marketing.
The Pareto principle.
Okay, yeah. It's the Pareto principle, some people call it. It's 20-80 rule, so on and so forth. It's always been that 20% of the population does 80% of the X, whether it's dating, military service, crime, whatever, okay? But there's a new problem, which is the widespread degeneracy and lack of moral social fabric that contributed to our birth rate, child rearing, and a positive incentive to get married. See, now there's no positive incentive to get married. That's what's the problem. There's no positive incentive to get married. So without that, all the girls are getting doped up on hormones they call birth control. And then the big A word is widespread now as a form of contraception instead of, a medical emergency. And we've eliminated all social incentives to actually contribute to positive dating. Meanwhile, anybody that tries anything traditional, we just call toxic. Toxically masculine, toxically this, toxically that.
Kind of, but I think so you go, Brad, but we're missing a big thing.
I think it's simpler than all of this.
What?
Our society's just becoming more selfish.
Yeah.
People are just more and more
yes.
into themselves, and they don't care about other people. They don't see other people as human beings.
They see them as commodities and means to an end.
Exactly.
And
the way that you're describing, like, the market of dating, there is usefulness to that, but people literally see each other as not other children of God. They see each other as like someone to use to get a feeling.
Yes,
right?
I agree, but all I'm trying to tell you and trying to tell Kwaku is what led to that. What led to the commoditization?
Social media.
Of sex? No.
Jacob's got something.
I was going to offer a thought on that.
Yes.
What's leading to it? I would say that there's a change in the narrative about the meaning of life that society has adopted. In kind of Western society, okay, traditionally people saw family life as sort of the thing that you're going to do. You're going to grow up, you're going to have a family. You're
now
we're
getting somewhere.
And historically, that's the way people have thought. Nowadays, the narrative isn't family life. I mean, if you talk to people that are older, like everyone kind of knew that that's what you do. You get older, you go to school, you get married, all that kind of stuff. Nowadays, it's like you can be whatever you want. You can do anything that you want. And so family, instead of it being kind of the default thing that people do, nowadays it's sort of like, do I really want that? Is that my authentic me? And so people don't feel the need to get married because they feel that they have all the options in the world open to them. And they do.
But here's why I don't think you guys are hearing me. Because when I talk to guys who are 21 to 25, they all want to get married. They long for the day they can have a wife.
In the church, that's probably true.
No. Even my younger brother, who's like out, he's in the same boat. He's in this.
No, because they've been browbeaten by feminism for 50 years. And to being the underdogs, they finally hit bottom. Like, men have never been more depressed, more obese, more suicidal, more everything. So finally, now that they've hit bottom, they're looking up and realizing actually marriage and family creation is a decent thing. So instead of laughing at the sitcoms in the 80s and 90s that made men look like doofuses and vilified that gender, okay, maybe I should actually try and be strong and actually try and be useful. There's a reason why 12 rules for life, where rule number 1 is like make your bed, okay, is actually selling off the shelves right now.
Here's the other issue, though. The other issue is when I said that the brethren and the church leaders aren't understanding the impact that social media is having on the dating game, this is why. Because
they're so old and they live in a detached era when social media was...
Bring it on, Cardon. Bring it on.
Go and talk to your grandparents about when they were dating. Your grandpa went and picked her up, took her to the malt shop or whatever, and dropped her off back home at 11:30 before her dad got mad. And he had no clue what she was doing on Tuesday and Wednesday. He just knew he had a date with her on Thursday. And he had to do the, hello, can I still take out your daughter tonight? And that's what it was. And now, with
that
Snapchat,
was the best 20s accent I've ever heard.
Or like 20s sports broadcasting in Brooklyn. Hey, yeah, can I get you down around 2 or 3? And I'm going to
that's what I imagine.
You know, just like...
Okay. But now, I know, if I go on a date with a girl and she adds me on Snapchat, I know where she is and what she's doing at all parts of the day, which is you should never have that much information about someone you are
it's
pursuing
actually
romantically.
Expected almost, you know, like the after date text sort of thing, right? Where you've dropped them off already, but the text, the date's really not over. And if you don't get an after date text, maybe it wasn't good enough, right? And all of this sort of stuff.
I got you one better, Brad.
Yeah?
Also this. If in the 70s, if let's say mom and dad or boyfriend girlfriend got mad at each other, okay, and boyfriend's at work, girl had to call him to the work phone, hoping he would pick up or be on hold, and then, hey, what's up, Bethany? I can't believe you did that. Oh, blah 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 blah. Okay, I will handle it when I get home. Okay, all right, hang up, and then there's a 3-hour gap. Okay, he has to drive home. And there's time to process and think about it.
If he knew he screwed up, he could get flowers on the way home.
Right, exactly. and then she had time to cool down, and they could actually meet and discuss and fix the issue. But now she's mad at me. She's going to send me a long, angry text, and I have within 30 seconds to reply. And if I don't give her my immediate emotional, angry reaction to something she has said, then I'm the bad person. And so there's no more lag time, which there should be to make things healthy.
I think you're right, and that there's something even worse added to it, because if you don't respond in that way, we've gotten so used to this immediate feedback that if you're not responding, then she texts someone else. And then the interpersonal issue.
She starts sending screenshots. Can you believe this? He hasn't responded.
Exactly.
And then her friend's like, oh my gosh, bring up this. Bring up the fact he did this.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, and so social media has cut the game and put this in addition to the fact that at any moment, she can then she or you can start swipe. Who am I into? Swipe. So now all that if I want to stop dating any girl in Utah tomorrow, I can set my Tinder reach to only Boise, Idaho, and I can match with a bunch of girls in Boise, Eagle, and Meridian, and then I got the money. I'll fly over. I can fly. This is what's happening now. If you have enough money as a
somebody's
dude,
taking notes here.
No, so I was just thinking,
is a real
like,
thing now.
This is very, very different from like my era of dating. And I even was in the era of social media, but it was sort of like, you know, when we look back on our Facebook posts, it's like you would say, oh, I'm going to the beach today. You know, that was like the extent of it. It wasn't the way it is now. But what's the solution? Like, what do we do about that?
Become Luddites. Destroy everything. Burn it all.
Stop all technology. Yeah,
I do have a solution, but Brad, you.
Oh, I was going to say, I think the solution is honestly kind of the same thing that it's always been. You've got to be a little bit more selective in who you're spending your time with, you know? Because look at it this way. Even Jacob in the Bible had to go out of his way to find the right place to find a good wife. You know, they sent a servant out and like had to find somebody.
I don't want to date in the Babylonian era of cannibals and desert wanderers, Brad.
Well, where are you?
2022.
Yeah, 2022 is the Babylonian.
No evidence of cannibalism in the Old Testament.
No, it is a.
This is Babylon 3.0 now. What are we on? Yeah.
Well, and so this is when church leaders say, why aren't they getting married? I just want to say, look, this is now what it's like. It is a nightmare. And so many guys, and by the way, if you're a guy like me, you don't want to date a hoe, but you don't want to be a hoe. You're like, ugh, ugh. And that's what's happening, right? And it's like, I'm not out there trying to sleep with every girl, and I'm not out there wanting to date a girl who sleeps with every guy. And so if you're one of those guys, and you know, you're lucky every couple of weeks you might get some tail, if that's what brings you happiness, then okay. But I think quality men that's not where they find happiness and their purpose in life. Mm-hmm. So it's making the people
it's getting harder to mature out of that.
Definitely.
It's because all young men are like that. When we're young men, we're all raging bags of hormones that, you know, think we're cool because we can get so many chicks and, you know, the whole 9 yards. But there has to be a conscious point in a man's life where he decides, okay, I'm going to mature out of this. Ben Shapiro mentioned this. I've heard lots of other modern philosophers talk about this, that you'll never get married until you're in love with the idea of marriage first. You won't find the one that you love until you're in love with the idea of actually finding love first. And we're not requiring of that of men anymore because we've said that's patriarchy. We've literally defined family creation as evil. And I look at this, and your rants are funny, you know what I'm saying? And it's hilarious. Listen to these guys compare how the game, in my mind, hasn't really changed.
It has changed a lot.
No,
it has. It has.
There, we can argue.
It's
the face of it might have changed a little bit, but there's a reason why in Scripture it says, in the latter days, 7 women will grab onto one man and say, "Please take away from us our reproach." We started this podcast before we meandered into whatever it became over the last 20 minutes, saying that polygamy is coming back, okay? But it's not going to be this religious mandate that we all jokingly refer to from the like 1860s and 1870s. It will be an inherent, some would say unintended consequence. I would say a natural consequence of hypersecularization. Because when you strip people of their identities as children of God that are forming families first, what are you left with? Their corporal bodies, okay, and their usefulness in monetary value or sex.
So I would say one thing on that too is this idea of growing up, right? Like, I think men now, more than any other time in history, just aren't growing up. And they don't have to grow up.
Yeah, because their loser boomer parents don't require it of them.
Exactly. And you can, and if you want sex, you have porn. If you want adventure, you have a video game. And all of a sudden, what do men kind of, if you boil down kind of the base male instincts, it's an instinct for adventure and sex. That's what all the movies are about. That's what James Bond is, right? And that's, now men can get that cheaply. And so I don't think men are growing up. And like you said, they have to fall in love with the idea of marriage. Well, you fall in love with the idea of marriage as the adventure that you're going on that is meaningful and that includes sex.
Well, and I agree. I disagree with Kwaku that this is new. I think.
Well, the social media ramifications of it are new.
Well, yeah, but see, the thing is,
I think you're right.
Facebook did this Facebook did this long before Snapchat did, long before Twitter did. The whole
the swiping and the location, all that stuff.
So, Cardon,
I think it was called the like button before. Look,
but I think Kwaku's point is that the way that technology is affecting this is just ramping it up and speeding it up so much. Like the point he was making about not being able to have time in between.
Dude, people have been griping about since the late 90s, early 2000s, people have been griping about how technology has completely demolished delayed gratification, which is a necessary part of psychological maturation, right? So I disagree with
Did you
Kwaku.
know what Brittany was doing at all parts of the day when you guys were going on dates?
I mean,
all day, every day.
Why is that a problem?
Wanted to,
there's
on Facebook, you could have.
She was constantly updating everything she was doing.
Riley and I texted each other all the time, every day, as we were dating, and it was fine. It was actually good. It was healthy.
I'm saying, like, after your first date, did you have a constant update of what guy she was with, where she was? At 11 p.m., you knew she was at this apartment complex. This is what psychologists are talking about. Why there's a major insecurity in dating now, which wasn't there before, because I now know always where the girl is. She knows where I am.
So like if I were to go on my first date with my wife, and then all of a sudden I find out through social media that she's hanging out with some other guy, you're saying that's kind of like the problem. Then I'm anxious and worried about that.
Yes, and if that happens at each time you start a fling with a girl, that's going to create a pattern in your mind of deep insecurity, which is what is happening to young men right now, and it's a new phenomenon that psychologists are talking about. So this isn't just, it's always been like this. This is a new thing. The new technology is shaping something new, and now...
Are you saying it's a new thing that men are insecure?
I think that we have far more insecure men than we did before.
It sounds like...
Okay, so a pandemic level insecurity. Okay, that's
well,
it sounds like what you're saying is that...
suicide rate would also kind of show that we do have... Men are the male security and male confidence is not where it should be as a society. And now if you're a guy and these are the girls you're taking on dates in the Mormon circle, if you're already a little insecure of, okay, well, I know she has this many options. On our date, I saw her phone. She had 32 new Tinder matches, and she gets 2,000 likes on a picture. And I can go through the comments. See that 90 comments are from men. You know that you are a small option, whereas in the 70s, you did not know all of the options she has, but now you do.
I think I have a solution that gets past this, though, anyway. And it's just changing your mindset around dating in the first place. It's if you are viewing dating as something where you are going on a date in order to get something at the end of it, where it's, I'm going on a date to get affection of some kind, or reciprocation of someone liking me back, or making out at the end of it, whatever it is that you have as this end goal, I think you're doing it wrong. I think you need to view dating as if it's more of a service, that you are going on your dates with people, you're investing your time in them to be able to help them become a better person, to help them see themselves in a better light by the end of it. I think if you're viewing dating in a charitable light rather than looking for something out of that date, it eliminates your insecurities. I think it gets rid of you sitting there thinking and worrying, what's she gonna think of me? Because that doesn't matter. What matters is whether you helped her have a good time on your date and helped her.
I firmly agree that men need to stop thinking so much of dates. Like when I go on a date, it's whatever.
Now, before you continue, though, I will have to say, Brad, when you go like this, with all this weightlifting you're doing, it really shreds your pecs, dude. Like you got to do that one again, man. Like those Book of Mormon movies, you doing them justice. Dog.
So I got to meet Brad
Can you
today.
do the Terry Crews, like make one of your like pecs wiggle with the other one? You know what I'm saying? Can you do that?
I got to meet our Canadian lumberjack for the first time in person. I've always watched him on the show, and I have to say, meeting him in person, the first thing I was struck with was like, wow, like this guy, he does have the Canadian lumberjack.
So okay, so now Kwaku,
now that that's out of the way.
Yeah, well, I never got to round the corner, was what I was saying. I disagree with you, Kwaku, that it's the technology, but I agree with you, okay, and with what Brad was saying, that to me, this is what happens when you secularize a system. We've secularized America, and when you strip people of their identity as children of God and future family members first, and make them sexual objects and tabernacles of clay first instead, you commoditize a market into what? This crappy system we have now. And it's not the technology. I disagree with you that it's technology's fault, because if we had widespread respect for each other as children of God, the social media and the technology inherent with it would be forming more families,
but also
creating more successful bonds in people. But because we have secularized the system as we introduce the technology, we're getting the negative effects of secularization on steroids.
I don't disagree with that. My point is, I'm not sure if I don't ever hear the specifics of this talked about by church leaders.
Oh yeah, because in their formative years, dating was totally different.
Yeah, that's the whole point I was making, Cardon. The whole point is
the most recent thing you have is
they're detached.
Elder Ballard saying something like,
Hey, would it kill you to wear some lipstick?
Yeah, exactly. Like joking about
I don't
this.
even wear
right?
lipstick anymore, you know? And
Yeah,
so,
these ladies want to show off their unshapely knees in some of these mini skirts.
Who was that guy? What was that guy's
That was
name?
Ballard.
No. That one was someone else. That was
Peterson.
Yeah, Marky Peterson. Even further back in the
So, I and again, like, I don't have it that bad. Like,
Yeah.
I go on plenty of dates. Like, I'm not, like, things are fine.
You're in the 20%.
I'm not gonna say,
Kwaku.
I'm not gonna say, but I have had my fair share of fun. Okay, but the thing that bothers me is I can see that this is something that's we make jokes.
It's
But when
really bad for society. When you look out
It's
there,
horrible.
it is bleak.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
What this is also doing then is it's making girls think their prime value lies in only the physical. And so we're wondering, why are they all making these OnlyFans accounts? Why is this becoming like, oh, I'm selling nude pictures? Why is this becoming such a big industry? It's because women have become complete. Well, they're not objects. I have to rephrase what I said that. But the women's self-objectification is booming, and that's the theme of TikTok, essentially. And as men are suppressed and stifled, porn-addicted, overweight video game players who just want to go into a different world because the real world was too hard because they didn't have dads to actually raise them and help them deal with their emotions. So they're tucked away into a whole other world, and the women are out there fending for themselves with those 20% men, and both are miserable. And this is the destruction of the twin flame. This is ruining everything. We are one of the things I wish when they brought up the family proclamation. Oh, I wish they talked about this more. I really wish this was a big subject that we said, hey, look, men, stop being lazy, get some confidence, get a little more testosterone. Women, stop being selfish and be a little less hoey. And I guarantee our society would be better. But those are what those two groups have to work on, and they won't.
I want Elder Ballard so badly to say, women, stop being so hoey. Like,
Is that even the word?
Church are rather holy.
Well, now hold on. Now, Kwaku, I'm going to push back on this. I'm going to push back on this because being Cardon the Boomer King, okay, the eldest in this wise council of many intelligent and brave men, okay, you say that it's the young men's and the, quote, simps' fault, all right? I actually think
I just blame both genders. I know what you're going into, but you had to set up a bad guy. I just blame both genders.
Look, so I don't victim blame like my friend, the head of the BYU Democrats does. But
it's all women's fault. Is that it, Cardon?
I would say, see, I volunteered a ton with the Boy Scouts before they went woke and decided to destroy themselves after almost 200 years of success. But in all of my years volunteering with the Boy Scouts, I saw over a 20-year period a heart-wrenching change in these young men. Usually around 11 or 12, they start thinking girls might be cute. And there's this kind of fun, like, oh, hey, Mr. Ellis, you're a cool guy. So like, how do I ask this girl out? Like, there was an excitement to enter that era. There was an unease about it, okay? But there was an excitement, okay? That slowly changed to a fear because...
Or an anxiety. Even.
Or an anxiety.
Yeah.
Because young men are not stupid. See, the problem with our leadership now is they approach the youth as though they're dumb and they're animals that need to be corralled instead of young men with minds that are fires that need to be kindled.
Where did you go to church?
And no, they do. They do. That's,
not my leaders.
Okay.
It depends on the leader.
Listen to how they talk to us in priesthood, and then listen to how they talk to the ladies in general relief society, and tell me which one's getting treated. Okay.
I do think you're getting at something that's important.
Well, let me finish. Let me finish what I'm saying. Young men now are fearful of asking girls out. Why? Because if you ask a girl out, you'll do it wrong, you'll get called creepy at best. If you're socially awkward, oh my gosh, now you're ended on social media. Nobody in the school is going to talk to you. Girls have been trained by college professors who want to perpetuate the statistical rape culture myth that men are these predacious criminals trying to sequester them from on campus in the parking lot. Girls in junior high are taught how men are evil and that really all a date is a gateway to the date rape that's about to happen. Like, they look at intergender relations now as this minefield they've never seen one of their friends successfully cross without getting a leg blown off. That's literally the way they look at it. They see dates, asking a girl out on a date, approaching a girl in real life. They view it as a minefield. So what do? They do what's safe, just like any of us would have done when we were 13. And they try and hit you up in the DMs on Instagram and see if you respond, but I don't know when she's going to get back to me, so we might as well go watch that crappy Marvel movie. You know, and they bond with their other dudes. And yeah, and all of our leaders are like, well, you should be brave and go out on dates. Well, then what you should do is go tell the chicks to stop lambasting anybody that asks them out on a date as a creep. And I agree with Kwaku here. I never had this problem. I'm loud, proud. I was a stand-up comedian. Okay, being 6'5", odds are in your favor when it comes to chicks. Okay, that's all I can say. But this is a problem with Mormon girls, and I'm calling you out right now. An attractive man that sees you in the student ward on day one at BYU, at UVSC, wherever. On the way home, he can knock on a door, cold call you because he knows you're in apartment 3, all right? And he could say, look, I'm sorry to be so forward, but I saw you in church and I just thought you were so stunning. I had to come here and just ask you right now if you wanted maybe just go get a coffee with me if we're in a secular world, or go get a Sodalicious, whatever you guys get in Provo nowadays. You could cold call that girl, and if you're handsome, if you're Brad, oh, he's dreamy, he's forward, he's romantic. If you're unattractive, you're semi-socially awkward, or you're short, and you walk up, you could say the exact same script, except for now you're the short guy. You could knock on that girl's door.
I just thought you were beautiful. Could I take you on a date?
Yeah. And they're like, ew, who is this creep? What? And he did nothing different than the hot guy, except for be 6 inches shorter. And now she's bulldozing him online as a creep.
Rule? The law is that it's the creepiness or romanticness of the gesture is directly proportional to how attractive you are.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Also remember,
and how much she wants you.
Yes, exactly.
70% of men are invisible to most women. That's the other thing that's important to know. And so,
where did you get this statistic?
Oh, these are Twitter stats that came out not Twitter, Tinder stats that came out this year.
This is a real thing. This is why.
Girls will swipe right on only about 14 to 24% of any dating pool. Guys will swipe right on about 80%. So women are far more judgmental of the physicality of men on Tinder than men are towards women.
But women, but is that something that's? I think that's normal. That's natural biology. My understanding is that women are more selective daters because the physiologically, biologically, if we want to go that route, there is, for them, dating is a higher risk sport. Sex is a higher risk thing because it results in childbirth, and they end up taking the brunt of that kind of thing. Women have always been more selective than men.
Oh no, for sure. No, I'm not denigrating that. That's important. I don't want my sister dating some video game playing loser. We've gotten hard on video games tonight, which means the video game guys were, hey, there's nothing wrong with me, with your Cheeto dust.
And a lot of guys actually watch our show while they're playing games, so maybe we should.
I play video games, everything in moderation. You're good.
I've never played video games. I don't know how they work or anything. I don't. Wow. We couldn't have.
That's why he has so many girlfriends.
Exactly. So, but if you're of that 70% of men that women find invisible, whenever you try to break out of that invisibility, a lot of those women are going to be like subconsciously are going to think who no this timeline does not exist. This movie is not being made. This is not going to happen. Come back when you're the basketball player. Come back when you're the musician. Come back when you're the tech guy or the entrepreneur. No. And so that's where you're saying, Cardon, I think where that comes from is just this kind of disgust that some women have. This disgust with who is this person not on my radar, thinking they have a shot with me. And I think it's become amplified in the last few years because the egos of people have soared through the roof because of the constant likes and dopamine rush that social media gives you. Mm-hmm. When you're worth 3,000 likes and 24,000 followers, your ego is way up there. And
oh my gosh, I've seen this with you, Kwaku. When you're like looking at girls that you're wanting to date and you're like, she doesn't really have that many followers though.
Well, I'm not going to date, what am I dating, some Amish chick? Point is, look, I want to make clear, I never said I was better than anything of the stuff I've been saying tonight. I am absolutely as bad as everyone.
Okay, well, let's
out.
bring it back to the subject at hand. We literally said that polygamy is coming back, but secularism will mandate it, not religious
and it already has.
people.
Yeah.
And it already has, all right? So you're suggesting that the polygamy we're experiencing is a secular polygamy in which a wealthy man that is attractive enough to probably have gained that wealth through some kind of talent and corporate success, I'm sure, can sustain romantic behaviors and relationships with multiple women. Why? Because no girl wants to date a pole brother. You know what I'm saying? We all heard Kanye West in Gold Digger. You know what I'm saying? Like, no girl wants to date a poor guy. So the rich guy, if he's rich enough to afford one, let's face it, in our amplified, disproportionate wealth system we have now, where the 1% gets richer, the rich always get richer and the poor get laid off, right? If you can afford one girlfriend, you can probably afford two. And if you can afford two, you can probably afford three. So you're getting these high value men that end up having 2 or 3 girlfriends, which sounds a lot like what?
And it's happening even more so because they're not having kids.
Yeah. And why would they tie themselves down to one and give their heart to one? Like, that worked out well for Will Smith, didn't it? You know, it's just like... I'm sorry. And let's say, and this is where I'm afraid of marriage, okay? Because I've almost been married twice, okay? And I'm terrified of marriage because I make a lot of money. What if she just leaves? Usually women initiate almost most of the divorces, and it's a nightmare for some of these guys out there. I know I should not have looked this up, but I hate Reddit so much because Reddit hates me. But in a conversation we were having with the boys, we started talking about this, so we got on Reddit and started reading. We typed in "my wife left me," and so many of the posts were, "My life of 20 years left me." The first time because it was the first time she saw me cry, or the first time this like one moment of weakness caused our egotistical society to have these women leave their husbands. And I thought, women are initiating divorce because the men are cheating or they're lazy, or no, sometimes it's wealthy, in shape, articulate men.
Yeah, it's blown my mind how many of my buddies, it's always men that are lampooned in our media and our society as being the cheating bastards. But the worst cheating cases I've known and the worst divorces that have had the bloodiest aftermaths with kids and with family and so on and so forth have all been because of infidelity of the woman. Yeah,
I think the statistic is men generally will cheat more in relationships, whereas women will cheat more in marriage.
Really?
Yes. And that's why I'm like, I want to make a lot of money. I want to be successful, but geez Louise, I don't want to marry some Jezebel who's going to Will Smith me and start dating a rapper 20 years my junior.
It's not Jezebel, it's Jada. Not Jezebel.
I'm trying to, I don't want to use her. I wasn't talking about her. It could be anybody.
Keep her name. Never mind. But
no.
Get slapped.
Yeah, we're looking at one of her entanglements. No,
and that's what. Oh, by the way, all my friends who are girls and look, I love them because of my friends. I got friends who are girls. You're watching this. I know you've cheated on your boyfriends because you've. What do I do, Kwaku? They always use a funny word. They'll never say cheating. When Jada said entanglement, I was like, oh no. We had like a little bit of a little soiree. Like, it's like they'll always use some far out
euphemize
word
it, right?
Because they think it makes it better in the mind. So and then it's like, well, it's not really cheating because he was the email didn't say and then they lie about it. Yeah, no, okay. I've seen some horrific stuff. I don't want to get married.
Here is something that I think will help Kwaku. As you're approaching your anxiety towards marriage.
No anxiety. I know. Look,
as you're approaching your fear, your deep-seated phobia of marriage.
As you victim blame from the Luddite pews.
I had to self-censor a really good joke just now. I'm so sad about it.
Oh man,
it was a good one.
Okay. So the thing that actually stands out to me was some really good advice I got back when I was dating. That is, I think, very, very useful and honestly addresses a lot of what you've talked about tonight with the problem that you're seeing in the dating world. And I'm going to try to remember this exactly right. But it starts off in dating. You want to follow this pattern. And I can't remember where this comes from. But you want to make sure that you don't trust somebody any farther than you know them, right? So you need to get to know somebody before you trust them.
I agree.
And then you build from there. Once you trust that person, then you can start to rely on them. You only rely on them as far as you trust them, which you need to know them first, right?
Biblically?
No. In fact, that's what comes next. Once you can trust somebody and you can rely on them, only then should you get physical with them. And that level of physicality should only be proportional to how much you know you can rely on them. Because if...
This is too much thinking, Brad. It's very wise.
No, I agree.
But it's too much thinking because you're overwhelmed with how hot they are and the hair they done did.
No, remember, Brad, my issues do not come with... I can go approach a girl. I can get her number. I have no issue with it. Believe me, there's no problem. I just don't trust.
Okay, Donald Trump.
I don't trust.
Trust me with Mormon girls.
No, what I'm saying is the field is clearly broken, and a lot of guys are having a lot of trouble.
Yes.
And the ego is rising, and I'm noticing it. And my plea is not help me. Okay? In fact, I need to be hanging out with less girls so I can stop getting in trouble with my bishop. Okay? That's my problem. And the issue is I want the general church leadership to see that there is a distinct and large difference than when they were dating in the 40s to how they're dating now. And that's all my complaint is.
But can we apply the principles of the gospel to a new context? We absolutely can.
Yeah.
And here's what I would say. Like, my dating advice that I give to people generally, and if you're worried about marriage, you're going to attract what you are. Like attracts like. If you go out there and be your best self, and that's such a cliche phrase. I
was thinking of Robin Williams in Aladdin. Where he's like, "Be yourself."
Exactly. You know? So if you just go and here's a corny analogy that I'll give people sometimes. Like, get your party train rolling, man. Like, be you, have a good time, be with your friends. Don't worry about trying to find that perfect girl. She'll show up. If you're doing what's right and not out there worrying about what all the girls are doing, they'll show up to you. Like, they will come out of the woodwork. And then I would say is this: look at their history, right? People,
not their Snapchat history,
yeah.
Kwaku.
but
their location history.
Maybe the girl's history is Kwaku's problem.
Well, see, that's the thing. Usually, now any of us can get just nailed out of nowhere with some crazy woman who comes and marries you and turns out to be crazy. However,
did you just say some crazy woman? Oh my gosh, you need to be canceled right away. That was an absolute attack upon... I'm just kidding.
I know, right? But if you look at people behave in their future is best predicted by their past. So if you got some girl who has shown that she's stable and has done the right things during her life, and she comes out of the woodwork very attracted to you, like, I think it's really irrational to feel like, oh, but what if she comes out of the woodwork and like divorces me and wants to take all my money and all that kind of stuff? It's like, yeah, and what if you get hit by a car tomorrow? Like, there's always risk. But the thing is you can actually mitigate the risk and the anxiety that you feel by look at their history. You can figure out what a person is, or at least be reasonably certain of what they're going to be like.
No, I fully agree, but
Kwaku was like, don't help me, help my generation. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And when their history is 55,000 followers on their OnlyFans and every
that's not the girl
TikTok
you want.
Dance, but when that's...
But what if she's really hot?
I'm going to tell you, hot, dude, hot will work for a while and then crazy takes over.
And really hot will work for a really long while.
If the history of those girls is now 7 out of 10 have a track record that's shocking and abysmal.
Yeah, that's challenging. And I will say this:
dating in Eden and dating in Gomorrah are not the same thing.
Okay, now I agree.
And you had the Eden version of Provo, and now we have Zarahemla and Third Nephi.
Kwaku, that's
you're edgy, but you ain't not that edgy. All right, that was grammatically amazing what I just said. I will say I agree with you with this, though, that I add this to a very, very, very long list of problems that the pre-internet generation that rules our cultural, political, and religious institutions
Sorry, Ed.
does not understand because you are your formative years, and the formative years of somebody in the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, and the 70s was really not that much different when it came to getting up the guts to ask a girl out or starting a family or getting serious with a girl than any of the thousands of generations before them. You can read a romance novel from 1870, and except for some weird Victorian dress outfits and so on and so forth, most of the humor, most of the candor, most of the interaction is going to be the same. What the internet did completely changed the ball game in a way that we haven't seen since the Industrial Revolution and the formation of and the invention of the Gutenberg press. Yet we keep these people alive that think the solution is giving another really stirring oration
keep
in
them
priesthood.
alive,
Cardon.
Yeah, our technology is keeping this pre-internet generation like they won't die.
It sounded like you were saying, yet we allow them to live.
It keeps them alive. What means it comes? Not allows them to hide there.
the plague!
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's
I knew you hated boomers, but wow.
But stats show this. Millennials are the first generation that won't live longer than their previous generation. It's the first time where life expectancy has dipped, and Zoomers probably will live less long than both those generations combined.
I'm living till 110. I don't care.
Yeah. So it's like, yeah, I look at this and I just think I just don't feel like we're led by serious people. Like politically, we're led by a man with donkey brains that doesn't even remember the name of his wife, and he's shaking hands with things that aren't there and mentioning countries that don't exist. I mean, okay, so presidentially, Biden's a laughing stock. Everybody,
But can't we take the principles of the gospel?
Of everything. Yeah, come on.
That's what I'm saying.
That's what I'm
with
saying.
Jacob on
like,
this.
that's the whole thing. Is that the gospel has the principles that can be applied to new contexts.
Teaching gospel principles.
Yes,
they are.
I want to date in the gospel, but the girls surrounding me are all Delilahs. Do you understand?
Stand strong.
No. We have, the Pride Cycle has created 3 generations of people so wealthy they confuse suburban niceness and propriety with kindness, and they're not preaching Christianity. They're preaching this weird pseudo 19th century Protestantism that they grew up with.
That's another episode, actually. We should do that.
Yeah, it's like if we had Moroni around, he would get up with a title of liberty and he would say, you know what? We're doing these things wrong. Kwaku's dating. Nope, guess what? It's been all secularized. You need to go back. Y'all need Jesus.
But see, that's...
Okay? And we need to unsecularize the system so we can go back to family creation, loving each other, and recognizing we are children of God first. But we don't have that. We have people that...
But don't we teach? Meh. But we teach general principles in the gospel.
Do we really?
And then
though?
people
we never get specific.
Yes. You're right. But that's terms. Sort of isn't that
They're
sort of the
general
game?
Authorities.
We give the principles of the gospel, and it's up to us.
There's a reason
to
why
apply
the
those
doctrine
to
of
our
Christ
to our life.
There's a reason why the doctrine of Christ is gaining ground.
There's the Doctrine of Christ movement?
The Doctrine of Christ movement is gaining ground.
I just wanted to youthify this episode a little and talk about what it's like dating as a Gen Z Mormon. And now we've got Cardon. Kill those boomers! It's like, jeez. All right, can we end this episode already?
I never endorsed euthanasia. No.
Cardon, so you're sitting here and talking about this where really the thing that you're going to be dealing with, the people you should be talking to are your local church leaders with your bishop.
Yeah.
Your young men's
I'm
leader.
lucky. My
That's who I
local
talk
ward,
to.
amazing.
Yeah,
local ward, amazing.
That is what their purpose is to talk to you about these things. Your local ward is the one that's dealing with this. The general authorities of the church are not the ones that are called to give you dating advice. They're called to call you to repentance.
In remembering the Titans, attitude reflects leadership. Our leadership is poor right now.
What in the world does that even? How does that apply to what I just said?
We got poor leaders right now. I'm sorry. I'm unimpressed with our leitership. I think they have not been specific since the 80s. Benson was the last person that would get up. Actually, no, Gordon B. Hinckley would do this. In fact, it's kind of funny. I remember one time he called out that movie Chicago, and he's like, "There's a movie Chicago that makes fun of our people. I will not go see it." You know what I'm saying? Like that was a horrible impression. But anyway, I feel, at least I might be misinterpreting what you wanted to say, Kwaku. But I feel like we are led by a pre-internet generation that is so detached from the realities on the ground of what modern dating has become, and dating is required for the formation of families, and we're supposedly all pro-family, right? That until we get post-internet people that understand the realities that we're dealing with, we will continue to languish in this mushy, wishy middle ground where we have a leadership that is managing a church, not leading a church. I feel like we've got managers.
I want to push back on that from this perspective.
Okay.
Again, our job in the gospel is to apply the principles of the gospel in our life so that we grow. We are not here to have all the answers given to us by our leaders.
Yep.
And so my thing that I'm about is, are they teaching us the principles that are right? And then it's up to us to apply those principles to our
specific. If it's that way, really, why have leaders? If it's really just up to us
teach
to
the
read
principles and to make sure the principles
doesn't that require
are
being
true?
Specific? Like, didn't John the Baptist?
Yes,
get out and
they're
say,
specific in their principles, but you want them to like call out specific people. Like, yeah, I think there is some of that can happen.
Jesus did. He said, Roman centurions that we all know are grifting and taking money from shop owners in order to get protection. Beest thou content with thine wages? So he points him out, which is a corporal punishable sin, and then says, be content with your wages, by name specifically mentioning the graft that they were engaged in.
Okay, so
he was not in a general authority place right there, right? You see this happening when you have general authorities show up in stakes, and it's different depending on their context, right?
Jesus lived during the time of some of the worst human oppression in human history. Okay, Caesar was as bad as Hitler.
Total patriarch.
Okay, and imagine if like in the days of Hitler, Jesus was on the earth and he didn't ever publicly condemn Hitler, right? That's almost the equivalent of what happened when Jesus was there in the days of Caesar. And in other words, but all of Jesus's teachings ultimately undermined what Caesar was doing. And it ultimately, in large measure, brought down the Roman Empire.
So by being weak, they're secretly being strong in the back door.
Oh, hold on.
So
the principles of the
weakness.
gospel undermine the work of the devil. And the thing is C.S. Lewis described this. I love this quote by him. He described Christianity as like we're being dropped behind enemy lines to undermine the work of the adversary. But we're not on it isn't like this direct thing. It's Jesus was undermining what the world was doing that was so evil and wrong. And so he doesn't hit Rome from the front. He undermines he changes human hearts.
It's the third way, man. It's the turn the other cheek
third way
principle.
argument. Yeah, we had a whole podcast on this. All I'm saying though, dog, is be honest with us. Be honest right now. Okay, Jacob? I know it's hard because you're from Nevada. But I'm just kidding. But when you read the scriptures and you read like Enos, you read like Alma, what are you laughing at over there, brother?
Cardon, can you not work I Hate Boomers into one episode challenge?
Okay.
Depending on how we cut it, maybe.
but be honest. When you read Ammon, let's just take Ammon for example. Can you name a modern equivalent to Ammon?
I mean, it's hard
There's
to
our answer! That's the answer!
No.
We don't have Ammons anymore! This is why the doctrine of Christ gets away with what they get away with!
You do realize that Ammon went to the Lamanites and was ministering to Lamanites.
For 14 years.
Yes, and serving them.
Uh-huh.
Okay, he was not going in there with a sword and being, let's kill some Lamanites, baby, woo!
Okay, so
he only cut off arms once.
Exactly. And he did that in defense. And so his idea was to go and to serve people and then to teach them the principles of the gospel.
Do we have a modern equivalent? No. Do we got a modern equivalent of Moroni? No. Do we got a modern equivalent of Tiankum? Of Kishkumen? Yeah.
Do you want to live in the war chapters?
Yeah, exactly. Cardon, because what it sounds like to me,
Sparta!
Cardon, what it sounds to me like you want is to be commanded in all things.
No, I want somebody to have a
slothful
spine.
and lazy servant.
No, I don't
stop.
want to be one of the dudes watching my anti-Nephi-Lehite
Are
dad.
you gonna make me yell over you, or can I finish my
Look,
thought?
you are King Benjamin, so you got a motherfucking tower. All right, you know what I'm saying? You
Look
can
at
talk
this.
over me any day.
That's not even who I'm cast as. But look at me. It is what I'm talking about, Cardon. I think that the core thing here is that it has to come from us. We need to stop blaming other people for our own problems. That's what Satan wants us to do, is say it's someone else's problem that I am insufficient.
Yeah, but I'm with
You
Kwaku
need
here.
to-
You can't look at society and not be concerned for how absolutely horrendous it has gotten.
Yes, but who is
And
going
then
to be
not
able to
think
fix
that
that?
our church leadership is asleep at some wheel somewhere. They have a power
and
you and I don't
I think
have.
I can do that.
And within my stewardship, I'm asleep at the wheel in certain aspect as well. And so are all of us. I don't judge the brethren on their duties because I think they probably do their priesthood duties better than I'm doing mine in my own life.
I prefer to blame nebulous groups of people
There it
based
is.
upon
There we go.
immutable characteristics.
There it is.
Because it absolves me of personal responsibility.
Precisely. And that way you don't have to grow because it's their fault. And where does that get us? Damnation. No progression at all.
I
because
just
now
want
we're
to talk
just
about
mad.
Tinder hoes, and now, I mean, geez Louise.
Okay, end this. Okay, we're ending this.
And let's talk about sustaining our leaders.
Okay.
Sound good?
See you in the next episode.